Welcome to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the big butch manly movie podcast that spent a little time in Europe. I'm Andrew Wheeler,
And I'm Shane Holland.
and on this episode we're talking about the 2002 spy thriller, The Bourne Identity. Can't remember which Bourne it was. The first one, directed by Doug Liman from a screenplay by Tony Gilroy and William Blake Herron, based on the novel of the same name by Robert Ludlum. The movie introduces Matt Damon as Jason Bourne and co-stars Franka Potente, Chris Cooper, Brian Cox, Julia Stiles, Clive Owen, and Adewale Akinoyu Akbaje. Debuting in the summer of 2002, the movie was a more grounded spy thriller than Bond, with realistic action sequences and greater moral complexity. The final Brosnan movie, Die Another Day, would debut a few months later, only for the Bond franchise to be put on pause and completely rebooted for Casino Royale in 2006.
Yes,
Oh,
I remember this time so well. I mean, this movie came out when I was in 10th grade, and I immediately fell in love with it because of the serious tone. It felt like I was watching an art house piece, which we will discuss how that holds up in 2025. A short synopsis of the film is a man is salvaged near death from the ocean, suffering total amnesia, without an identity or background except for a range of extraordinary talents in fighting, linguistic skills, and self-defense that speak of a dangerous past. He sets out on a desperate search, assisted by the initially rebellious Marie, to discover who he really is and why he's being lethally pursued by assassins.
Handsome assassins. For me, I remember this time as well, and I remember... am I going to slam Pierce Brosnan again? Yeah, I probably am. I remember Die Another Day and the struggle that I had. And I remember presenting this movie because of the sort of the Bond-Bourne rivalry, which was, created by the press. There is no reason the franchises can't coexist, which they continue to do. I mean, they both have long periods of dormancy, but
Some more than others.
Bourne movies are still being made, is my understanding. Stuff in the Bourne franchise. They understand the value of this franchise. But yeah, the jolt that this movie gave to the Bond franchise was, it turns out, extremely welcome and good for that franchise. We would not have got the Craig era, I think, without this movie.
Yeah, it's hard to understate how much influence this film had at the time, because I mean, as we see in the Brosnan films, they just lean so heavily into these era camp, with tech and gadgets that are nonsensical. I mean, invisible cars, anyone really? And performances that feel like they're lifted out of another dimension. Sometimes they're just so unrealistic. And here comes along the Bourne franchise, and this is a man struggling to figure out who he is. I mean, what could be more queer than that, Andrew? And a woman who is not instantly in love with the anti-hero, and who has her own agenda and is kind of swept up in this whole thing in a way that feels less Tilly Masterson and more other example. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Oh, shit.
I didn't mean to be that cruel, honestly.
But yeah, I mean, when I saw this movie, I was expecting Brosnan's Bond, and I got something so much more at the time, and I fell in love with it. I mean, I immediately went and read the book, which is very, very cerebral, and for a teenager was incredibly wordy and hard to understand. But I mean, that also influenced me in a profound way. I began to read spy literature in a way that, I mean, I never would have considered otherwise. And I fell in love with the spy genre, I think, because of this movie, not just the Bond genre, which is its own kind of thing, right? And also, I fell in love with Matt Damon. I mean, he's so hot in this film. It cannot be expressed enough how hot he is.
He's gorgeous. I mean, I was always a Ben Affleck girl. Again, another another dichotomy created by the media.
I'm the one who's supposed to like the problematic men. I'm just going to put that out there.
I can have my moments.
Yeah, you do.
He wasn't problematic yet when I was
Right.
crushing on him. Like, we're talking like Oscar era Ben and Matt. I mean, they were a cute couple. There'd be no denying it. Like, they are such a good like archetype of like the boy best friends, like the angelic blonde one and the slightly shifty dark haired
brooding.
one.
Yeah. Hi.
It's us.
And have we been chasing that high ever since?
People used to call me angelic when I was a child. I was so blonde.
Oh God, how little did they know
pale.
you?
Well, I didn't know myself. You see, like Jason Bourne,
just like Jason Bourne, also suffered
just like
amnesia.
Jason Bourne.
Yep.
But yeah, they're both hot. They're both beautiful. But yeah, Matt Damon went through an era. This and The Talented Mr. Ripley are like, he didn't know what a homoerotic icon he was being during that period. Like, he was satisfying something that the culture needed to have in it, you know?
It is hard to think about this film without thinking about The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
I mean, partially because they came out so close to each other. I mean, within the space of a few years. But, I mean, there isn't even like a homoerotic undercurrent in this film, but there's something about Matt Damon's vibe in this era that just like screams like brooding, introspective, poetic, misunderstood, all things that I associate with homosexuality in the late 90s, early 2000s.
3 years apart. And both involve running around Europe and getting off and on and off boats. So, you know.
Someone's getting off, yeah. It's me.
Such similar vibes.
Yeah.
How has it aged, though? Before we get into our categories, I wanted to ask, like, this feels like at the time it was like breath of fresh air, everything is new. And now looking back at it, it's like, this is so 2000s. There are things in here that seem stupid now. Like the bit where the assassin throws himself out of the window. I laughed out loud watching it this time.
Yeah. That was particularly hard to watch.
Stupid.
Yeah. I mean, they do some speed ramping. We just discussed Goldfinger last week, and there's speed ramping in this movie a full 40 years later. And it's like, why are we still doing this? We have better technology, better cameras. We have better stunt work. It's so unnecessary. And some of the cuts, I mean, when they do flashbacks, they do like this Apple movie, whatever that program was called, like flash to white and flashback, and it's just so of the era. It felt like this movie was made on one of those bubble Macs with the different colored backs. You know what I'm talking about. You have to be a 90s kid to know what we're talking about. The performances hold up. That I will say. Like, they feel real, they feel grounded, they feel just as fitting in a movie today as they did back then. The characters are great. The set pieces are fantastic. There is some really great action in this film if you can, like, look past a man throwing himself out the window. I mean, there's a bit of Italian job in here. Did that movie also come out in 2002 with the chase in an Austin Mini? I think so.
The original did not. The original came out in the 60s.
Right, but I'm talking about the Nicolas Cage one, which
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, shit! Honest aim.
But no, like the minis are part of the original movie. Like that's
I know. But there's something very 1999, 2002 about that mini chase that, I mean, look, I grew up in this era. I'm always going to think of the one that I grew up with before I think of the thing that started it all. That's why I love Pierce Brosnan.
There is an anti-glamour to this movie. Like, that's very deliberate and pronounced and present in, you know, the leading man, the leading woman, the way Europe is shot versus the way Europe is shot in a Bond movie. So, of course, the cars are not glamorous cars. You know, that's kind of the Italian Job, the cars are comedic. Here, the same car effectively is anti-glam. Like, that's the function that it's serving.
It is not an Aston Martin. It is an Austin Cooper, for sure.
Speaking of anti-glamorous, shall we get into the categories?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the women, of which there are two in this film.
Yep,
God,
that's right.
we've come a long way.
I mean, if you squint, there might be other women in the background. Is that child a girl? I think the child might be a girl.
Yeah, there's the receptionist in Zurich, which
Yes.
I mean, the Zurich Bank seemed so high tech in 2002, and looking at it today, I laughed. I when he puts his
Nothing
hand on
ages
the
like
iPad.
technology.
Oh my god, and the I mean, there are barely phones in this film, but the cell phones were like tiny and flip, and bring that back, am I right?
I mean, bring
But
back
yes,
phones that couldn't track your location.
or know everything about you, or respond when you're talking to someone else.
So yeah, we have Franca Potente and we have Julia Stiles, and Julia Stiles is not in this film a lot. It has to be said. She's in the franchise more than she's in this film. But I do love Julia Stiles in this film. Like she is our quietly competent spy. Like what do you call it? Like this
Hand
handler, analyst. You know, she's a desk bound spy,
He's a
but she's
modern
getting out into the
Moneypenny.
field a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And so she's very like, and she's got that the Julia Stiles voice, the
Oh,
slight rasp, the sort of intensity that she has. I
she's
love
like a
it.
ballet dancer who smokes a pack of cigarettes out back when she's
Yeah.
finished.
Let's not talk about Julia Stiles' ballet dancing, please.
What, you didn't enjoy Save the Last Dance? Okay, all right. I mean,
But yeah, she's a great like button down, efficient character who is a very welcome presence to have in a movie that has no women in it apart from the damsel in distress. So to just have one other woman in the movie is bad, but the fact that the one other woman is a really great, competent character who out survives her boss in the politicking of the story. Like I appreciate that. I think that, and I'm
yeah.
glad that character continued to have a life.
Yeah, me too. I mean, she like you said, she's barely in this movie, but she feels like such an integral part of it. And maybe that's me like projecting onto the franchise in a way. But no, I mean, I don't think this movie fully works if we don't have her kind of everyman character in there. And she, like, you know, she gets some great scenes. Like, I love the part where she's trapped in the office in Paris, like shredding paper, and like, are we gonna get caught? And then all the power goes out around her, and she's like trying to figure it out. That's cool shit. And she was just everything in this era. I mean, from 10 Things I Hate About You to Save the Last Dance to this film, she was in everything. Give me more Julia Stiles. She needs to be back in the cultural lexicon, because she was such an important part of it. But Franca
Such a good voice.
Potenta,
Yes.
I mean, an amazing actress. Run Lola Run was, again, one of those films that helped shape me as a young person into who I am today. Like, I didn't know you could make cinema that was quite like that. And I love weird kind of sci-fi, kind of art house films like that. She is so underutilized in this film. It is almost embarrassing now.
Like she was at the time, again, it's one of those things where, oh, at the time you were thinking she's like reinventing the damsel in distress. And now you look back and you're like, nope, she's just a damsel in distress. Like she does have more agency than some of the 60s damsels, or even, I mean, especially 80s, 90s, actually.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the nadir of just women's roles in general. But yes, she has some agency. Yes, she does take control of the stories in places, but she's not particularly, she just doesn't show a lot of strength in this film. She doesn't show the grit that you think this is why they cast Franca Potente in the role, you know? She's
Yeah.
not presented as the equal. And I get it. Jason Bourne is a hyper competent killer. That's who he's trying to get back to being. She's a woman that gets dragged into the story against her will. There's no reason why she would also be like great in a fight, but like what are her competencies? Sleeping with her
What do you
professor?
do successfully? Yeah. Quickly.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, it just kind of sucks like that starts off the film like trying to what she's trying to get like her green card for Switzerland. She wants
Yeah.
to stay in the country, and she's frustrated and angry, and she's ready to like drive back to Paris, and she essentially gets held hostage by Jason Bourne.
Psychopath.
a psychopath, murderer, killer. And she holds her own in conversation with him. But as soon as they get to the first like major action set piece together, the first attempt on his life, she is immediately relegated to a role we've seen 1,000 times. She's just screaming, Jason, look out! Very Stacey Sutton.
Yeah, I think the reality of the character is that she, like, if a woman were writing this movie, or if a woman had been involved in writing it then, or if someone just a little more aware were writing it today, you would have more of her trying to get away from him. I feel like you would have the whole narrative of her being like, how do I escape this man? Do I turn him into the police? That's there, but it's not. We don't see her being like taking charge of that at all.
No.
To what extent does she actually finally make the choice to hang out with him? It doesn't seem like she has that choice. She just sort of becomes Stockholm syndrome to him.
Yeah, that is kind of exactly what happens. Much like Goldfinger, he kind of just like assumes that they now are going to have a romantic relationship, and that's the turning point, which, God, we really hadn't come very far in 40 years between the two. 38, sorry.
Yeah, like when this film came out, it was the things that it had progressed from Bond that stood out. And now, 20 years later, you look back and it's the things that are the same. And the role of women is the biggest thing that is the same. And it's sort of, it shocked me a bit looking back to be like, oh wow. Also, Franca Potenti's hair shocked me in this film, as she's like a scarecrow when we first meet her.
It's so wiry. It's like every direction. I mean,
moisturize, love, please. You know.
Oh yeah, just a little bit of conditioner after you shampoo. Maybe ease off on the multiple dye jobs. It is a shade of red that was only existent in 1999 through 2005.
Jason's had the most intense deep sea hair therapy, and his hair looks amazing, like beachy, you know?
yeah, sun-kissed, and she comes in like a drowned rat somehow. Yeah.
It's, I know it's anti-glam, but can we just condition
There is a point where they walk past a wig shop and neither of them think that maybe we should go and grab a wig. Like, they're on the run, and in the shop window is like multiple wigs, different colors, different styles, and it's like, here's your chance. You can finally have some good hair.
If they're trying to hide, her hair's not helping the situation.
No, absolutely. There she is. The one like this. Oh, and at the end, oh my God, when he runs into her at the beach shop, and she has
scooter rental shop,
and she has these like tiny sad little pigtails and like a rat tail in between them, and her hair, it's like, you've had time. There was time now. You could have fixed it. You're in the sun and on the beach all day. You could get the hair treatment that he had. Just go and lay in the water for a day.
Honestly.
Wow.
Talking of him, the boy. Our second category, the boys.
There is essentially one boy in this film. Thank God, there are a few others. I could talk about Matt Damon forever. Like, he is in his prime. He's got that tiny little nose and that beautiful sandy hair, and he has perfect, flawless skin, and he's so lithe. But we also get Clive Owen in this film at his prime as well.
Thank you. Clive Owen, if there was a Mount Rushmore of Bonds that could have been and never were, he would be up there with Idris and Henry. And I don't know who the fourth one is. Sam Neill? I don't know. That would be a terrible waste of a mountain. Please, nobody build that Mount Rushmore. But, theoretically, he's up there. And having Bourne kill a famous almost Bond is surely very deliberate in this movie.
Deliberate, for sure.
Clive Owen is just one of the most handsome men that ever lived. He was like, when he was in his 20s, he was a regular on British TV. He had a show called Chancer. And I went back and watched some episodes of that. He was in a drama called Second Sight, where I think he ends up having sex with his own sister. But it was very erotic. I mean, he's very naked in it.
Andrew.
When he was Matt Damon's age, he was giving Matt a run for his money for sure. But when he's then at this sort of more end of his Bond run age and the crags are really starting to show, but he's still, I mean, it all works on him. I
Oh
love
my
it.
God. The glasses, like the
Slutty little
duster,
glasses.
turtleneck, and slutty little glasses. I don't know,
He
it
invented
shouldn't
them.
work. He invented it. It's, oh my God. Yeah, he's really something. And he has like 3 lines in this film, and he makes such a big impact to me in it, that I remembered him being like a much more major part than he
Right.
is. Uh, and like, surely at this time he was deserving of a bigger part, and like you have to wonder, like, did he choose to do this role because there was some kind of prestige to it, or was he just like starting out in his film career that he got a small role? But no, there are no small roles when it comes to Clive Owen. Like, he made this tiny role seem so important.
I think he was someone who was waiting for his big break in the US for a very long time, and it just never really happened. And now it kind of, like, post this movie, it kind of did happen. Like, he had
Mhm.
closer, you know, he
Children of
became a
Men.
much bigger, more important role actor after this movie. But like when he was his 20s. I don't know how old he is in this film, but like when he was in his 20s and you thought he was going to be the next big thing in Hollywood, it never really happened. So yeah,
Such a shame.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie, he took this role because it was a good role in a big movie and it did actually do the work that it needed to do for him, I think,
Yeah, I
ultimately.
guess I think you're right. I think you're right. There are a couple other handsome or handsome adjacent men in this film. Uh, the young CIA assistant hottie, I don't know. He's kind of hot in a very boring white guy kind of way, but when all of those scenes like at Treadstone at the CIA are just like old white men in stuffy ill-fitting suits,
Right.
he did stand out as like young people exist. But
When I'm
also,
looking at the movie thinking, is this the one with Albert Finney in or the one with Brian Cox in? And I'm looking at the man himself and I'm like, I still don't know which
I
one that is.
honestly, I had a question mark. And this is not the first time that you and I have talked about this film, and I still didn't know. And it wasn't until I saw the notes in our script, to, like, peek behind the curtain, I was like, that's who it was. I watched this film yesterday and watched the credits, and I still had no idea.
It's like
They
Finney Cox.
I also want to shout out the very 90s bleach blonde assassin who throws himself out of a
Estelle.
window. Estelle. I mean, he's hot in a very dated way, but he's hot.
Very rough trade of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
It's
is
the
hot. He is.
spiky, it's the very bad dye job that I think does it for me. It's relatable as someone who's dyed their hair in the past.
Uh,
Yeah.
I will reiterate here something I've said in public before, and no one is as amused by this as I am. The movie Zoolander is ultimately about a secret league of assassins who are all male models, with the flashback being that James Marsden is John Wilkes Booth, I think. Um,
Yes, right.
and I think the Bourne movies take place in the same continuity because all of the assassins are male models. And,
My God.
you go on through the franchise and it's like Oscar Isaac's in the third or the fourth one. And it's like every single movie has some beautiful man playing an assassin.
Wow.
Plus
Wow.
Jason Bourne himself, of course. So Zoolander, Bourne, it's the same thing.
I don't see the difference.
Water is the essence of wetness. And that's something Jason Bourne learns straight away.
That is the prime lesson in this film. Yeah. Well, I also want to say Adewale is also incredibly handsome, especially in this era. He was in Oz, right? I think he was in Oz as like
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
prison HBO show as a main character. And like, he is a very lithe sexual man who is not dressed in like he's just not dressed very well in this film. But it is just very unfortunate that he's also the only person of color with lines, and also a kind of villain, and also just
Well,
like a pawn in the film. Again, in ways that this film felt groundbreaking at the time, and then looking back on and being like, "Ooh, that is one of them." Damn.
talking about the rough trade before, let's talk about the rough music. This is a place where we fall in different sides of the fence, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Look, it, It's
My
not.
main note here is Moby frowny face emoji. That is my main note.
Mine is the Moby song is good, damn it. So we are not aligned. Look, I mean, it it's of a time, right? It's of a time when I'm coming of age, and so there's sentimentality involved. Uh, it it hits a spot that why are you just looking at me like that? Like I can see you staring at me and I'm defending myself and I can feel the anxiety rising. It's fine. It's not perfect. It's fine. The soundtrack okay, yeah, I'm going to go on. The soundtrack is okay. The soundtrack is fine and it kind of reminds me of Bond films of the era. Soundtracks I enjoy. It's
Tone of defensiveness in your voice. What have I said? Moby frown face.
yeah.
Techno breakbeat is not my scene, darling. It really electronical music is not what I come for. It doesn't there's no coming when that's playing, as far as I'm concerned. I do appreciate that this movie has a lot of silence in it, and that's great.
Wow. Well, I still listen to music like this, and I think it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's wonderful that people can like different things.
It is. It really is. Moving on. The fashion.
Speaking of Zoolander, I mean, the derelict look is in, baby.
Oh boy, is it in. I mean,
The
you and
orange
I are
chunk knit
modeling
sweater.
the two fashion pieces that exist throughout the film.
Lovely fisherman sweater, like that's the vibe.
And
but
everyone,
I don't.
literally everyone has a turtleneck.
Yeah. I thought I must have a sweater full of holes, but apparently I don't. I must have got rid of those at some point because yes, his holy orange chunky sweater is actually a statement piece in this film. Like he's
It
wearing it for the
is.
first half of the movie. It makes you long for the opening scenes where he's completely shirtless. When you
Damn.
imagine that light skin underneath all that sweater, what a waste. It's
Yeah.
an awful sweater, but it's a piece of the era. It talks to character, it talks to what the movie's trying to do, and it talks to the long 90s of this movie. This movie is part
Yes.
of the long 90s, an era where fashion
Died.
shrugged.
Yeah.
Um, there was no style. And you look at this movie and everyone is trying to look beige and poor, and it's just so sad. And an orange chunk knit sweater is remarkable for being orange.
Wow. I mean, speaking of orange, Franca's orange eyeshadow matching her orange turtleneck, that was a choice. Matching her
Yeah.
red orange hair. Everyone is wearing something that clashes in this film. Like nothing looks good on anyone except for maybe Julia Stiles' turtleneck again and power suit. She's wearing an emerald green turtleneck, I want to say, and then like a very stark black, like very masculine cut suit over top of it. And that was the only thing where I was like, that looks good on a human being.
Right. Clive Owen, we did say, like, he carries his outfit well because he's Clive Owen.
But it's also a
I will call out
duster.
yeah, no, it's vile.
Yeah.
But also Matt Damon's olive drab undershirt. You gotta give that props.
Okay. Yes, I can absolutely agree to that.
Twink in a military undershirt, like that's cute. It's almost
He's
fashion.
never fought a
But
day in his life.
I do feel like 90s dance scene fashion was better than this. Like it
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
good, but it was what we had. And Franca Potente was kind of an icon of that movement. And, you know, Run Lola Run was very much that movie, like the 90s
Yeah.
Berlin kind of vibe. And I guess it's the anti-glam again. Like they deliberately didn't embrace what fashion did exist at the time, which was not much.
Not a single person wearing multiple belts.
Honestly. And that's still chic. So yeah, let down on the fashion for sure. But by choice, I will acknowledge, like that is the movie's choice.
Yes, yeah, agreed. The queerness in this film.
I
long
bring some
silence.
queerness to watching this movie.
My unending crush for Twink Matt Damon was the only queer thing I could think of about this film.
Honestly, like, he does look like a Jean-Paul Gaultier ad campaign. Like,
Yeah.
that's always a little bit queer, you know. He's
Yeah.
on a boat surrounded by
Sailors.
fishermen. That's a
Yeah.
homosocial environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, this is one of the things that Bourne does not progress beyond Bond. Bond was not queer inclusive, and Bourne is not queer inclusive. We have not made any progress. In fact, we were well into the step back era here.
Don't ask, don't tell, for sure. Uh, yeah,
A
I
lot of
mean,
twigs in trap.
very true, very true. As a queer person, it it's obviously great to feel represented on screen. I don't expect us to be in everything, not just like not everything is for certain people, not everything is for us, I suppose. But the
Suppose.
fact, I suppose, I mean, it should be, but it's not. Like, they're in Paris, they're in Switzerland, they're trotting through Europe, and there's not one homosexual in the background wearing like something noticeable. The wig shop might be the queerest thing about this movie, because there's like a blue and a neon green wig in the window. It's just that we spend so much time in Paris, a very queer city, and there's not even a hint of gayness anywhere in this movie.
The man in the bank, maybe he's gay. I don't know.
It's so hard to tell with them.
Could just be European. Who knows?
Exactly. It's fine. It wasn't going to be in everything, but it definitely wasn't here.
We're going to look for it in everything. That's what this podcast is for.
That's our job. That's what we're getting
That's our
paid
job.
for. Yeah.
All right, shall we rate this movie?
Yeah, let's. Oh,
We
man.
give the movies a score out of 5, and then bonuses for our chosen categories of women, boys, music, fashion, queerness. And there is the option of a penalty point deducted if there is something egregious about the film that we cannot look past. So let's jump in. Shane?
For the movie, it's tough. Is it completely middle of the road? I think it is. I think I had strong feelings about this film when it came out, but I think now, looking back, it's just a 3. Like, it scratches an itch, but it doesn't really actually do anything very groundbreaking other than set up the Bond franchise to do something groundbreaking.
Like, action-wise, it was groundbreaking at its time.
Okay, yeah.
And it is a very reactive movie. Like, and it did sort of widen the scope of spy stuff. Like, maybe not just Bond, but like maybe stuff like Slow Horses is like owes a legacy to this movie. But the movie itself, in retrospect, yeah, it feels a little underwhelming. What was once a 5 or a 4 is, I think, now a 3.
Yeah, it's also a little uneven, like in pacing, in tone, in a way that on this rewatch felt pretty obvious. The movie drags at a few points, and a good action movie shouldn't drag. So many of them do, but the good ones don't, and this one does. Like, there's a whole like third act that is a little forgettable, and the ending is absurd. We didn't even talk about the dolphin noises, Andrew. There are dolphin noises like imposed on a beach scene because we're on a beach, and it's done so straight-faced. It's unbelievable.
It's the pigeon double take of the Bourne movies. Like, he walks into the surf shop and a dolphin goes and it's like, where is that coming from? How can a dolphin be in this surf shop?
I mean, that almost gets an extra point. Yeah. Oh, and women.
Woman.
Woman. Are we giving it a bonus point for Franca and Julia?
I don't think I can. I mean, not to the detriment of either woman, but the roles themselves are just unsatisfying, ultimately. Yeah, especially for what we expected of this franchise.
I'm gonna have to agree. It's it feels like a step back. Even other like action films in the 90s did better. Like True Lies, my God, what a great film with an amazing lead woman role. And here we are just like GoldenEye. Oh my God. And Tomorrow Never Dies. I know you don't agree, but Michelle Yeoh is incredible in that film. Yeah, and then to just like be relegated to a damsel in distress role and a secretary role, both of whom don't get any action in this film. Julia Stiles, as we said, gets some actual play in later films, but that's not the film we're talking about. In this film, it sucks. So 0.
Boys. Now, we have said in the past that one boy does not make a film good enough for the boy point unless it's Sean Connery in a grey Glenn check at his sexual peak. So, but this film does have a couple of bonus boys. It does have Clive Owen. It does have the trashy blonde in Paris who jumps out of a window. So, with Twink Matt Damon being sexual but not sexualized, does this get the boy?
Ooh, I think I would feel bad for this film and what it means to me if I didn't find some way to give it a bonus point. I'm going to give it to Matt Damon, and I'm going to give it to Clive Owen.
We still have the music category to go, so you might yet give this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Clive Owen and Matt Damon are enough for me. And honestly, Castell is really hot in that really regret it later way. So yeah.
Yeah, it gets a bonus point.
Music, Shane. Shall I go first or?
Well, I feel like we all know where this is going to head. I'm going to give it the point and you're not. And I'm just going to feel bad about my choices that led me to this point in my life.
I could surprise you. I'm not going to surprise you. I hate the music in this movie.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it. I'm not even like really defending it voraciously. Like, it's not great, but it's fine enough and it sets a tone, and I'm going to give it the point.
Where you were in your life when this music was big and where I was in my life when this music was big have set us at very different places.
Decades apart. Like, my God, we were so far apart.
Fashion. We can probably come back together on this one, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like we're aligned. It obviously gets the point. No, just kidding. It's terrible. No bonus point for the fashion.
It's ugly. And then Queerness, can we make a case for it?
No, we'd be doing a disservice to our community if we did.
The queerest thing is The Boys, and we gave it the point for just like the homoeroticism of Matt Damon's existence, which is not weaponized here the way it is in Ripley. Like, no, totally different thing.
Oh, okay. So are we going to deduct anything from this movie? Is anything so bad that you feel like we have to apologize for this movie, or that like really takes you out in a way that the movie didn't intend? I guess that's what our penalty would be.
And it's usually like, did this movie do something really sexist? Did this movie do something really racist? Did this movie do something really homophobic, ableist? Like anything that's really bigoted and prejudicial, those would be the usual things to apply a penalty for. And this
not just
movie
is it
only
boring.
fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie fails to do things, but it doesn't outright offend. Like, as you said, like the only black characters are the, like, terrorist insurrectionists of an African country. That's bad. The women do not get to be as actualized as we would want them to be. That's bad. There are no queer characters at all. That's bad. But none of them have penalties, I don't think.
No, nothing is like outright in your face. Like, we did this because we hate women and black people. It's just like, again, this movie is just a little surprisingly regressive, but in ways that the whole era was. It speaks to its time, and nothing is so bad that it makes me go like, oh, take this off my shelf, or I'm sorry I'm making you watch this, but you need to watch this to understand me. It's not like Goldfinger.
Let's never go back to the long 90s. It was a very stupid place.
Andrew, I feel like we're heading that way.
Yeah, I know, I do too. All right, totting up the scores. You gave it a 5 out of 10, and I gave it a 4 out of 10. Is that right? My math's good.
Yep. That's a 4.5, which I'm kind of surprised. Like,
That seemed a bit mean, honestly.
it does. But maybe that's what it deserves. Like, it was
Yeah.
once great, but looking back, it's kind of meh. And okay, let me ask you this. Did you enjoy watching this film this time?
Which would be like the 5th or 6th time that I've seen it.
Mhm.
Like, yes, but it was, yeah, like I didn't, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I kind of enjoyed it in a way of like any action movie from that era that I've seen a bunch
Yeah.
of times. Like, Air Force One, great action film, but it's not doing anything groundbreaking. I just like watching Harrison Ford as the president saying, "Get off my plane." Like there's nothing inherently new or exciting about a film like that. And that's kind of what this feels like, even though at the time it felt like we're doing something, we're making a
Yeah.
difference, like theater kids in high school.
Yeah,
I was one.
it's more important than great. And I think maybe there are other Bourne movies that I'll enjoy more, but also the other Bourne movies I've watched less often. That won't be the Jeremy Renner one that I enjoy more, that's for sure.
No. Maybe we need to go back and do another Bourne movie at some point just to see if
Yeah,
maybe they.
yeah,
I think the second one I remember being like infinitely better, although there's something really problematic that starts out that film, so maybe we'll end up feeling the same way. I don't know. It's worth coming back to.
yeah, I would be interested to go back and look again at this franchise. But yeah, this is almost a comfort movie at this point. Like I've seen it enough times that it's like I'm enjoying it because it's familiar and because there's a twink and Clive Owen appears briefly and it's like, oh. But yeah, it actually isn't the great movie that we once thought it was.
Yeah, and we're just gonna have to be okay with that.
It's fine.
It's fine. You're fine.
You're fine.
I'll get out of here.
You're more than a 4.5 out of 10.
Thank you. I think I'm at least a 6.
I won't get more specific than that. It will
Okay.
not be drawn.
Okay. 5.5 it is.
Thank you, Shane. I had a lovely time as always.
I always have a lovely time discussing these things with you, Andrew. You're a full 6 to me.
Oh, thank you. There's more than I could hope for.
Kiss, kiss.
Bang, bang, darling.
If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. You can follow Kiss Kiss Bang Bang on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at KKBBpod, or email us at kisskissbangbangpod@gmail.com.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is recorded in Toronto on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples.